And if you're not careful, you could die. So here's how to survive a medieval tavern. It's dangerous to go alone. Take this, your trusty dagger, for instance. You think it'll save you. Think again. Medieval taverns weren't just places to quench your thirst. They were maelstroms of humanity where brawls erupted faster than a cook could spill soup. It was a place where hardened mercenaries rubbed shoulders with bickering peasants, all united by tankards of ale and a lust for brawling. Walking through that door alone meant you volunteered for the nightly meat grinder. It was fool's errand, a death wish, or perhaps both. In this den of iniquity, discretion was your only weapon. In this world, trust was a luxury you couldn't afford. Faces around you were masks, concealing intentions as treacherous as the inn's slippery floor. Some sought nothing more than a hearty brawl, while others had eyes for your coin purse or your throat. Even the innkeeper, that greasy-faced puppet master, dealt his own hand, keeping his eyes peeled for valuables left unguarded. If you ventured inside alone, you became the main course in a banquet of blades and bad intentions. And if you didn't play your cards right, your solo act would end with you 6 feet under, singing a dirge with the worms. Your armor, you think it'll protect you. Wrong. Entering a medieval tavern without knowing the local lingo was akin to strolling into an enemy camp wearing your finest battle armor. Head to toe in steel might intimidate the common rabble, but it did little to shield you from the tavern's unique brand of warfare. Words were weapons here, and insults flew faster than tankards. Tavern brawls often started with a jest, a sneer, or a well-placed jibe. The locals knew this terrain intimately, able to navigate the minefield of mockery with ease. You, on the other hand, were an outsider, a greenhorn, and every slur or barb landed with the force of a mace blow. Your armor might deflect steel, but it did little against the barbs of mockery. Those jests, sneers, and jibes were designed to wound, to goad, and sometimes to bait you into a fight. Once you overreacted, revealing a lack of understanding, you gave the opposition license to target you, and believe me, they took full advantage. Your fancy armor might keep you safe from their fists, but it wouldn't protect you from the social landmines that littered the tavern floor. Now, you think hiring muscle will help you. Wrong again. Hiring bodyguards in a medieval tavern wasn't just futile, it was downright disastrous. Picture yourself sitting there, surrounded by your burly oafs thinking you're all set. But in a place where brawls were as common as rats in the walls, even a small army of guards could get overwhelmed. Tavern brawls weren't like pitched battles where formations clashed and swords sang in the air. They were messy, chaotic affairs where numbers counted for little. When the din of battle reached a fever pitch, there was no telling where your guards would stand when the tankards flew. Would they stick by your side or run for cover? Having hired muscle made you a prime target. It was a declaration that you were wealthy, you had valuables on you, and more importantly, you weren't a local. Outsiders were fair game in a tavern brawl, and your bodyguards would struggle to defend you without knowing the lay of the land and the language of insult. Plus, who could keep track of their charges in that maelstrom of flailing limbs and flying ale? By bringing an entourage of guards into a tavern, you increased your profile and your risks. You think buying off the innkeeper will help you. Once again, you'd be wrong. Bribing the innkeeper in a medieval tavern wasn't just a waste of money, it was a gamble with your very survival. These wily publicans had seen it all, heard it all, and survived it all. They were experts at reading people, discerning the shills from the suckers and knowing when someone was packing more than tankards. Offering a bribe to the innkeeper was like casting a breadcrumb trail. You might think you're outsmarting everyone, but you're really advertising your wealth and drawing attention to yourself. Besides, what guarantee did you have that the innkeeper would use his influence for your protection? Or worse, what if he pocketed your bribe and did nothing? Tavern brawls were a spontaneous combustion of ale-fueled rage. You couldn't count on the innkeeper's subtle guidance to keep you out of harm's way. He had his own regulars to worry about, his own business to tend to. In a place where violence erupted as quickly as a dropped goblet, subtlety was a luxury no one could afford. So laying your money on the counter to ensure a smooth night was like throwing your coins down the drain. It was a desperate act born of fear and ignorance, and fear and ignorance were currency in a medieval tavern. You think knowledge will help you. You could be right. In a realm where fists flew like meteors and tavern brawls were a nightly spectacle, having even a smattering of knowledge about the establishment and its patrons could spell the difference between a good night's entertainment and winding up in a body bag. Knowledge in this context was power. Knowing the layout of the tavern, its weak spots and escape routes, could mean the difference between staying in the fight or slipping out unnoticed. Similarly, Being aware of the regulars, their reputations and their triggers, was like having an ace up your sleeve. This wasn't about brute strength or blind luck. This was survival 101, in a place where danger lurked in every corner. To stay alive in a medieval tavern, you needed to know when to strike and when to retreat, when to speak and when to stay silent. And knowledge, my friend, was the key to unlocking that fine line between thriving and dying. And you must learn quickly because things can change fast. Medieval taverns weren't sanctuaries. They were cauldrons of human emotion, where tempers flared and spirits soared to dangerous heights. One minute you could be enjoying a pint, watching the bards sing songs of valiant knights and fair maidens, and the next, the place could erupt into bedlam. It didn't take much to ignite the fuse in a tavern. A careless word, a drunken jest, or even the clink of tankards. Tempers ran high, and tensions ran higher, and the slightest spark could set off an inferno of violence. You had to be ready for anything, able to pivot from revelry to rumble in the blink of an eye. Knowledge helped you read the room, to sense the shift in atmosphere before the storm broke. But in the end, you must rely on cunning, you see. In the brutal theater of a medieval tavern, you couldn't afford to rely on anything but your wits. Violence was as commonplace as the mugs on the bar, and surviving it required a healthy dose of cunning. Knowledge was important, yes, but it was your ability to wield that knowledge, to apply it in the face of danger, that truly mattered. Could you turn the tables on a brawler? Could you diffuse a situation with your words? Or could you slip out unnoticed when the storm clouds gathered? Cunning wasn't just about what you knew, it was about what you could do. In the chaotic, unpredictable environment of a medieval tavern, it was your most potent weapon. So remember, it's not about brute force or blind courage. It's about reading the room, knowing your enemy, and having the presence of mind to adapt. In the medieval tavern, survival was the ultimate victory. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave a like and subscribe for more content. Also, don't forget to join our community to discuss this video further. We look forward to seeing you in the next one. In a world where castles gleamed with gold and kings feasted like gods, there was one place where everyone was equal. The tavern, not some fancy palace lounge with velvet cushions and goblets of gold, mind you, but the real deal, a place where the beer flowed like water and stories flowed like the beer. It was a sanctuary for all, a haven for adventurers, scholars, bards, and miscreants. This was the heart of medieval life. But now we re-gone, take a time machine back to that era and visit one of these legendary establishments. Why? Well, because after over a decade of talking about them, we finally get to visit our own mead hall, so let's go inside. The first thing you notice when you walk in is the hearthburns at the far end, spitting sparks into the thick air. The smoke doesn't rise, it clings, choking, smothering, refusing to leave. Even the chimney groans as though suffocated, and the stench, it's no fragrance. It's trauma. Ale sour and sharp, sweat layered from years of unwashed bodies, moldy bread and boiled onions, all swirling together into a perfume no man could survive without gagging. This is not aroma, this is war. You glance down. The dirt floor pretends to be covered by straw, but every step is a gamble. One wrong move and your boot sinks into something so vile you don't dare name it. Maybe human skin might have started out as straw in another life. A shudder runs down your spine. You didn't think this was possible in a world of knights and wizards. But damn, this place makes the underbelly of the city seem inviting. Tables wobble like broken bones, carvings, knife scars, and obscene drawings shout at you from their surfaces. Every scar has a story, none end happily. The benches creak, sagging under cloaks, weapons and regrets. Nothing is clean, nothing is safe, nothing here is meant to be. And then the noise hits you like a wave. Laughter explodes in one corner. Laughter so violent it sounds like a war cry. Men argue about pigs, women smash mugs into wood, children dart through legs stealing bread and coin, and not one person looks twice at the stranger who just entered. A man sneezes so ferociously the whole room recoils in terror. It's sensory overload, but somehow not painful. In fact, it's exhilarating. There's power here, raw, untamed energy that thrums beneath the din. You push through the crowd, feeling eyes on you, gauging, sizing you up, deciding if you're prey or predator. Most are too drunk to care. Others nursing mugs like holy relics, whispering prayers of ale. Then you see her, perched on a stool behind the counter. The tavern keeper. Her face is a roadmap of wrinkles, each line telling tales of battles fought and won. Her eyes, two chips of flint, assess everything, missing nothing. She wipes her mug with a rag so filthy it's questionable whether it's meant to clean or soil. When she looks your way, you know she knows everything about you. Where you're from, why you came, and how long you'll stay. There's a knowing smile on her lips, a silent welcome to the den of iniquity. There's a lull in the clamor, a brief moment of quiet that only emphasizes how loud it was before. Now she speaks, her voice surprisingly strong, cutting through the haze like a sword through fog. Welcome, stranger. What brings you to the rusty mug? Gold, jewels, or just trouble? Her gaze bores into yours, daring you to lie. You hesitate, unsure how much truth to reveal. After all, in this place, secrets flow like the ale, and sometimes they come with a price. Just passing through, you finally say, hoping your weariness betrays no fear. A traveler in need of rest and a good tale. She nods, accepting your half-truth. Then sit, weary traveler, and tell us what brings you to our humble abode. With a flick of her wrist, she beckons you to a table. As you make your way through the boisterous crowd, their eyes follow you, curious, sizing you up. A group of burly men at one table eye you, their gazes lingering a bit too long on your weapons. At another, a lone woman sits shrouded in shadow, her face hidden behind a hood. She seems out of place in this rough crowd, like a raven in a flock of sparrows. Reaching the table, you find a tankard of ale waiting for you, its surface frothing like a dragon's breath. Taking a seat, you feel the weight of countless eyes upon you, judging, curious, sizing you up. And then the questions come. Who are you? Where do you hail from? Their voices, raspy from ale and grime, echo around you, demanding answers. You hesitate, caught in the crossfire of their gazes. Should you trust these weathered faces? These strangers who smell of stale sweat and pipe smoke? How much can you reveal without giving away your soul? Finally you speak, your voice echoing above the din. I am but a traveler, you say, choosing your words carefully, seeking solace and maybe a warm fire. Their faces remain impassive, etched with lines of hardship and mirth. The silence stretches, heavy with unspoken stories. Then a man with a missing eye speaks, his voice like gravel on stone. Solace you'll find, but warmth, eh? That's a gamble. He gestures to the hearth with a gnarled finger, its flames dancing like restless spirits. And as for tales, he adds, leaning closer, his breath reeking of stale ale and regret. Ah, tales, we have plenty, but be careful which ones you choose, for some will stick to your bones and others will haunt your dreams till the end of your days. Taking another swig of your ale, you consider his words. You knew coming here would be a risk, but the pull of the unknown, the allure of danger, had been too strong to resist. And now you find yourself at the crossroads, poised between caution and curiosity, between the safety of anonymity and the peril of unveiling your true self. As the night deepens and the shadows grow longer, you realize you're not just a visitor in this tavern, you're a character in a story waiting to be written. The question is, what kind of story will it be? Will it be a tale of triumph or tragedy, of laughter or loss? Only time and the whispers of the wind through the rafters will tell. But for now, as the flames crackle and the voices rise, you raise your tankard in a silent toast to the adventure that lies ahead. The rusty bucket welcomes you, not as a hero or a villain, but as a soul seeking shelter from the storm. It doesn't judge your past or question your motives. It simply offers you a corner by the fire and a listening ear. It's a place where a weary traveler can shed his skin, becoming whoever he wants for as long as the night holds. Here, identity is fluid, as changeable as the shadows cast by the flickering flames. For within these four walls, there are no lords or serfs, no heroes or villains, just souls seeking solace. Stories and maybe, just maybe, a moment's respite from the relentless march of fate. So you settle in, letting the warmth of the fire seep into your bones, chasing away the chill of the road. The tankard grows warm in your hands, its weight comforting in a strange sort of way. You listen to the laughter, the arguments, the songs, and for a while, you're just another face in the crowd. Another story in the tavern's vast and ever-growing archive. Maybe you stay just one night, finding rest before hitting the road again. Or maybe you stay for weeks, getting caught up in the tavern's web of intrigue and danger. Whatever you choose, one thing is certain. Once you enter the rusty bucket, you're never truly the same. The tavern takes something from you, leaving an indelible mark on your soul. When you leave, if you leave, the world will seem quieter, emptier. The echoes of laughter and song will linger in your ears, long after you've gone, and you'll carry the scent of stale ale and sawdust with you like a shroud. For once you've stepped foot inside the rusty bucket, You've joined the ranks of those whose lives have been touched by its magic, by its madness. You've become part of the tavern's story, and in a strange, twisted way, you've found a home. Welcome to the tavern. Come for a pint and stay till hell freezes over. So you've traveled far, braved the elements, faced down bandits, monsters, or perhaps your own conscience. Congratulations. Now your reward awaits. Death, laughter, and sin sharing the same roof. Where mugs are dented, stories are drunker, and lives hang by the thinnest thread of luck. All roads lead here, the road of riches, the path of ruin, even the king's highway. They all end here. You're weary, you ache, you need rest. The tavern offers none. It steals your sleep, trades it for stale chamber pots and candlelight that's seen better centuries. Here morals take an evening off, shadows dance cheek to cheek, and whispers turn into screams. There's safety in numbers, but more importantly, safety in obscurity. In this place, faces are forgotten and names are lost. You're just another silhouette hunched over a table, yet somehow you stand out among the commoners, soldiers, priests, and rogues, all hiding their past behind tankards and tankards. You see them huddled in the corners, eyes watchful, hands ready, guarding secrets buried deeper than their grime and scenes. Their calloused fingers curl around tankards as if they could shatter them with a thought. Their gazes sharp enough to cut through the haze of stale smoke hanging in the air, and when the tankard is drained, they slam it down, a hollow sound that echoes the emptiness within them. These men, they wear their scars like badges, each line etched with tales of battles fought and won. Weathered faces that have seen too much, smiled too often, and lied too well. There's a veteran here, his uniform faded, his bearing stiff from years of marching, but his eyes still sharp. He takes a swig of his drink, the tavern noise fading away as he remembers some long-dead comrade. Beside him, a young recruit, fresh-faced, eyes wide with the excitement of a life newly begun. His armor gleams, his sword is new, but there's a tremor in his hand that betrays his bravado. The veteran catches the eye of the young man, a silent understanding passing between them, the weight of what's to come, the toll that the road will take. There's a merchant here, too, his fine clothes reeking of spices and far-off lands. There's a weariness about him, though etched lines around his eyes that speak of caravans and narrow escapes. He, too, has seen the world's harsh edges and tucked his dreams away like precious cargo, keeping them close and hidden. An elf sits apart, cloaked in emerald shadow, her features delicate, yet her eyes old, ancient and wise beyond her years. She stirs her drink, the ice tinkling softly, a melody of solitude. Her gaze drifts to the door, always alert, never quite at ease. For all these men, the tavern is a sanctuary, a pause in the relentless march of their destinies. Yet here within these four walls, destinies collide, the young and the old, the rich and the desperate, all seeking solace or oblivion, each with a tale to tell, a secret to bury or a lie to spin. Now, let us paint a picture of a place where the ale flows like water, where brawls are as frequent as sunsets, and where every whisper carries the scent of both danger and desire. Welcome to the tavern, traveler, where every face is a mystery and every tankard holds a story. Here the air is thick with the scent of stale waste and the ghost of 1,000 untold tales. The fire crackles metalily, casting flickering shadows that play hide-and-seek with the smoke curling lazily towards the rafters. In the dim lamplight, faces are half hidden, voices hushed, and secrets whispered like prayers. A bard strums a haunting melody, his voice echoing tales of valor and woe. The common folk sway to the rhythm, their faces illuminated in the amber glow of their tankards. Their laughter mingles with the clink of tankards and the murmur of conversation, creating a symphony of revelry and intrigue. At a corner table, a group of weathered adventurers nurses their drinks, their faces etched with the hardships of the road. Their weapons rest on the table, silent witnesses, 2 battles fought and won. One of them, a grizzled warrior, his armor dented and scarred, spins a yarn of daring exploits, his companions nodding in knowing smiles. Across the room, a noble lounges in a plush chair, his finery a stark contrast to the rough and tumble crowd. His eyes, however, are sharp and calculating, betraying the turmoil of a mind that weighs alliances and power plays. A roguish figure with a sly grin sits alone, nursing a tankard, his fingers, nimble and quick, twitching as if ready to snatch at opportunity. His eyes, like chips of ice, miss nothing. But amidst this tapestry of humanity, there is a presence that chills the very marrow. A hulking brute with a face like a granite monolith and eyes that burn with an inner fire sits by the hearth. His silence is a palpable thing, and all who meet his gaze instinctively step back. A shiver runs down your spine. Who is this man, and what darkness lies in his brooding eyes? As the night deepens, the tavern's denizens grow bolder, their voices rising in volume, their laughter echoing with abandon. Suddenly, a scream pierces the merriment, followed by the crash of shattering glass. All eyes turn towards the commotion. A young woman stands amidst a sea of upturned tables, her face pale with terror, and then, as quickly as it began, it ends. The hulking brute stands before her, his voice a low growl. The tavern falls silent, only the crackle of the fire and the hum of hushed whispers break the spell. The woman's eyes, wide with fear, lock onto yours. She mouths the word, "Help," and in that instant, you know that tonight in the tavern, the darkness is alive and watching. Now, traveler, what will you do? Will you heed the woman's silent plea or turn away, lost in the labyrinth of your own story? The choice, my friend, is yours. The road is long and fraught with peril. Perhaps a warm fire and a listening ear is all you need. Or maybe you're here to find trouble, to lose yourself in the swirling chaos. Either way, the tavern waits. Its shadows deep and secrets untold. The night is young, the ale is strong, and the road beckons beyond the tavern walls. Yet for now, the shadows hold their stories close, whispering only to the wind. But if you listen closely, very closely, you might just hear them, and in their tales, you may find your own reflection. So sit by the fire, traveler, and let the shadows dance, for in this place where darkness and light intertwine, your destiny awaits. Now go on, get out of here, get back on the road. You have miles to go before you sleep and many more stories to find. Remember, the road is never ending. The tavern always awaits. But most importantly, you carry the stories within you. Until next time, keep walking, keep listening, and above all, keep believing in the magic of the road. It wasn't. It never was. You step the ground, groans, something squishes beneath your boot. You pray it's ale. It isn't. Every surface here has a story, and none are kind. Tables wobble like broken bones. Knives have scarred them. Drunks have carved them. Every cut is a warning. Every mark a ghost. Benches sag under cloaks, swords and sins. Sit too long, and you'll leave cursed. But stand too long, and you'll be noticed. And notice is dangerous here. A man slams his mug so hard it spits half its contents. No one looks, another snores. Face buried in a ladle, no one cares. A one-eyed dog gnaws a bone beneath the table as if it owns the place. No one dares challenge him, because here, even the animals pay rent in violence. Your seat, damp, stolen, yours now, if you can keep it. But keeping it will cost you. Everything here costs you, especially your safety. The fire roars at the far end, a blessing, a curse. Sparks spit into thick smoke that never rises. It hangs in the air, choking, clinging, smothering. The chimney is useless, maybe stuffed with something dead. Heat presses on your skin, smoke fills your eyes, but nothing strikes harder than the smell. Ales are warm, splashed across every inch of wood. Sweat years of it, soaked into walls, into straw, into memory. Moldy bread, boiled onions, a stench so heavy it scars. This isn't a tavern smell. This is trauma turned fragrance. You cough, but no one notices. Because here, coughing is survival. Everyone smells. Everyone suffers. No one admits it. The crowd is a beast with 100 mouths. One side bursts in laughter so violent it shakes rafters. Another side screams over pigs, debts, and insults. Mugs slam. Voices roar. Shadows threaten. You are swallowed whole. And once swallowed, escape is impossible. Because now you're part of the tavern's heartbeat. The tavern doesn't run on ale, it runs on chaos. Chaos that laughs. Chaos that bleeds. Chaos that welcomes. You feel it wrap around you, warm, filthy, alive. It's not comfort, it's not kindness. It's something far stronger. Belonging. For the first time today, you're not alone. You're not safe, but you're alive. And that, in this world, is everything. So you grip your mug. Ignore the crust stuck to its rim. Ignore the eyes watching you. Ignore the floor threatening to swallow you whole. Because you've made it. You've survived the door, the stench, the crowd. For now, the tavern accepts you. But acceptance is always temporary here. One wrong look, one wrong word, and this place will eat you alive. Welcome, stranger, to the Medieval Tavern. A place where laughter is a threat, where silence is suspicion, where the walls breathe, the tables bleed, and the smoke suffocates. You thought you came here for ale, but you were wrong. You came here to be tested. You came here to gamble your life with every breath, and the night has only just begun. You hesitate by the threshold, debating retreat. Turning back is easier than facing whatever horrors lurk within. But the biting wind goads you forward. Desperation is a stronger motivator than fear. Besides, what more could await you out there? A kingdom lost to war, a queen lost to madness, a son lost to monsters. Nothing ventured, nothing gained, as they say. So you venture in, bracing for whatever chaos this tavern can conjure. The door groans open, then holds its breath. Inside, the cacophony hits you like a battering ram. Cheers, jeers, a lute's mournful cry, men's voices, women's laughter, a dog's unsettling bark, all blend into a discordant welcome. Your eyes struggle to pierce the gloom. Torches sputter on the walls, casting dancing shadows and revealing chipped mugs, empty tankards, and 3 grim faces staring down from faded tapestries. You see a long table dominating the room, flanked by benches askew, all at angles that suggest hurried departures or vicious fights. Around it, mismatched chairs teeter, some overturned, others pulled close as if secrets were shared there that shouldn't reach eager ears. The air grows colder. Is the fire out? Or is the draught simply snatching warmth from the dancing flames? The flickering light catches a glint on the wall opposite the door, a single eye staring back at you. Not a painting nor a watchful deity, but a dried smear of filth and decay. Was it meant to be a symbol, a warning, or merely the grim jest of some bored traveler who stopped to relieve himself before continuing his journey? Your gaze drifts upward, seeking solace in the roof's dim outline. There, cobwebs drape like funeral shrouds, weaving tales of neglect and lingering spirits. A sudden crash echoes across the room. A tankard shatters on the table, spraying ale across the worn surface like a dark, viscous blood. Your eyes seek the culprit. A hulking figure slams his fist on the bench, sending the tankard flying. He doesn't seem to care. His eyes are fixed on the floor, his shoulders slumped, as if the weight of the world rests upon them. You scan the faces around you, searching for any sign of recognition, any hint of familiarity. But every face is a mask, hiding the stories etched into their features by years of hardship and strife. You wonder if these people, too, have felt the bite of hunger and the sting of despair. Do they find solace in this tavern, too? Are they, like you, seeking refuge from the storms that rage both within and without? You're aware of every eye upon you, dissecting you, judging you, sizing you up. Their gazes are sharp tools, probing for weaknesses, testing for flaws. Each stare a testament to a life lived on the edge, where trust is a luxury and suspicion is a shield. You feel like a specimen under a microscope, your every move dissected, your every breath scrutinized. In this den of hardened souls, your vulnerability is laid bare. Here, in this forsaken tavern, you're not just a traveler seeking rest. You're an enigma to be unraveled, a puzzle to be solved. And in this game of life, the stakes are higher than you ever imagined. The flickering lamplight dances over grime-coated walls, casting dancing shadows around you. The patrons' faces are a mix of hopeful and desperate, resigned and angry, sneaky and bored. There are mercenaries, traders, nobles, and beggars. In fact, there are all kinds of people here, but the type that tend to frequent taverns like these. You can tell right away that this is no ordinary tavern. The door creaks open and a voice booms. Welcome to the Drunken Dragon, where the beer is as strong as our blades and the mead flows like the blood of our enemies. The patrons turn to stare at you, silent and expectant. You realize you're not in Kansas anymore. What kind of tavern is this? What should you do? Oh, hello there. Welcome to another installment of 5-Minute DN. Today we're talking about rowdy roadhouses and what makes them unique, how to run them, and how you might survive them if you ever find yourself stuck inside one. Taverns are everywhere. They're common, practical, necessary. Taverns are where people go to get drunk and brawly, where weary travelers sleep off the road. Taverns are a second home for many, but a tavern is a tavern is a tavern. Not so for the rowdy roadhouse. Rowdy roadhouses are rare establishments run by individuals of strong wills, brute force, or both. These places may look like a bar, but they're really battlegrounds disguised as taverns. The layout is all wrong. There are no neat booths or cozy bar counters. The tables seem to be placed by a madman during an earthquake and then left that way forever. They spill into each other, but sturdy, scarred and unyielding. Benches are nailed to the walls and snap under the weight of heavy boots. Crates double as seats and every corner seems to beg for a fight. And speaking of fighting, everything is covered in weapons. Swords hang from the walls, maces are tucked under tables, and tankards have been reinforced with metal bands to better withstand errant axe throws. Because what's a good brawl without axes, right? And the centerpiece of it all is the roaring hearth. A blessing of warmth, a curse of smoke. It heats the room and claws into your lungs. The so-called bar isn't much to look at either. Expect no polished wood or shiny taps. Instead, a single sagging plank is balanced on a few barrels. It's drowned in spilled ale and elbows, and behind it stands the king or queen of this madness, the tavern keeper. Forget your local lord, forget the taxman. The real ruler of this town wears no crown. They wear scars, anger, and an apron covered in ale and blood. Their job is to keep the peace, or at least contain the chaos until closing time. So they pour drinks, bark orders, break up fights, and start them when needed. Everyone in the room bows to the tavern keeper, whether with coin, silence, or a broken nose. Do not cross them, ever. If it's a man, he's built like a wall of muscle and bad decisions. If it's a woman, and it often is, her glare alone could turn laughter into silence. She has cleaned blood from straw before you've even had breakfast. She knows who's paid, who owes, and who's about to regret living. She is the judge, jury, and executioner. The tavern keeper is a storm with a tankard in one hand and a club in the other. And in this room, they're God. Assistants scramble around them like desperate sparrows, sons, daughters, orphans, maybe even a trained monkey or two, carrying barrels twice their weight, mopping floors, dodging fists, and praying they aren't trampled beneath drunk boots. To you, it feels like chaos, but to them, it's order, a living machine of madness balanced on the iron will of one keeper. If they're smiling, the night hums. If they're angry, the room becomes a war zone, and now it's your turn. You feel like you're suffocating, your throat is dry, your boots are soaked, and your courage is thin. The tavern keeper turns to you with a tankard in hand, their face a mask of scars and good humor, and asks, "What will you drink?" Forget cocktails, forget ice, forget safety. Your choices are few, dangerous, and lukewarm. First the ale, cloudy, thick, alive with floating bits of grain, yeast, or worse. It's brewed in the back room where the tavern dog sleeps. It tastes like earth, sweat, and risk. Cold, never, fresh. Don't ask. You drink and pray you don't swallow more than regret, or perhaps the mead, honey wine. Sounds sweet, sounds noble, but in truth, it's unpredictable. Sometimes divine, sometimes poison, sometimes an explosion waiting to happen. One sip could taste like paradise, the next like venom. Nobles demand it, bards beg for it. You'll regret both. If you want to learn more about running a rowdy roadhouse, check out the Dungeon Master's Guide or my video about running taverns. Both are linked in the description below. And if you'd like to support 5-Minute D&D, we've got a page for that as well. It's linked right here. But for now, the choice is yours. What will you drink? The mysterious alchemical concoction bubbling ominously in the corner, or the steaming flagon of dwarven stout? Let's see. Oh, okay, great. Then let's just get started. You awaken in a forest clearing. The remnants of your campfire have long since burned out, leaving only glowing embers in the cold light of dawn. You're alone, or at least you were until a twig snapped nearby. Suddenly, an arrow whizzes past your head, embedding itself in a tree trunk. Who goes there? A voice calls out. You hear the rustle of leaves and the snap of a bow, as an archer takes their position, and just like that, your adventure begins. We've got a whole video about how to run forests. We talk about the different types of woods, how to make encounters feel natural, and how to design encounters that take full advantage of the terrain. Plus, there are some awesome handouts in there too, and best of all, it's free. That's right, we've unlocked the video early for supporters. So anyone who supports us at the tier or higher gets access to our full library of 5-minute D&D videos, completely ad-free, plus exclusive videos like this one. Supporters also get access to our Discord server, where we share D&D news, discuss our upcoming projects, and chat about all things nerdy. Oh, and did I mention that subscribers also get to vote on future videos? Yeah, it's pretty cool. So if you like what we're doing, consider supporting us. The link is always in the description below. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Hi everyone. In today's video, we are going to eat our way through a medieval tavern. As we know from watching Game of Thrones, feasting and drinking in taverns was a favorite pastime for all people, whether you were a peasant, a lord, or somewhere in between. So let's see what they ate and drank in the taverns and inns of the Middle Ages. And be sure to stick around until the end, because I will show you how you, too, can eat your very first medieval tavern meal. Our feast begins, of course, with an appetizer, but not just any appetizer. Third cider, not quite wine, but definitely alcoholic. It was made from pretty much any fruit, though apples were popular. The most important part of cider making was picking the apples at the right time. They had to be neither too ripe nor too unripe. Then they needed to be ground up and pressed. And finally, the liquid had to ferment. This meant that good cider required some serious skill, but it also meant that many times it was left to chance. Sometimes entire villages would pool their resources together and make cider as a community project. Cider could be served warm or cold, and in a variety of mugs. However, it was especially popular to serve cider in cracked mugs. Yes, you heard me correctly, cracked mugs. These weren't made to be cracked, but the mugs were often so old that they literally fell apart over time. In fact, these mugs often looked more like weapons than vessels. But despite its somewhat violent serving vessel, cider could be a sweet, tasty drink. However, this wasn't always the case. Many times apples would be picked when they were already rotting on the tree, and no one told you. You wouldn't care by the second gulp. Oh, and I should mention that children drank cider, too, normally diluted with water. Wine, technically, yes, but unless you were among the bishops or lords, it was sour, thin, and offered with sarcasm sharp enough to cut. The special reserve is a lie. It's vinegar dressed in stolen grapes, and then there's water, the bravest choice of all. Clean water is rare, sacred, almost mythical. Drink the wrong cup and your already dead dysentery is waiting in the shadows, eager to tear you apart before you reach morning. Even children drink ale, not to get drunk, to stay alive. The mugs, wooden, clay, tin, sometimes still crusted with last night's stew. You raise yours, sniff, hesitate, and drink. Warm, bitter, dangerous, yet somehow perfect. Because here, if it's wet and doesn't kill you immediately, it's a luxury. But what if you don't want to drink? What if you are parched but refuse to touch that which would melt your insides out? Well, then you might want to consider ordering some bread. And by ordering some bread, I mean asking the server if perhaps there is any bread you can afford. Bread was a staple of medieval diets. It was a cheap source of calories, and if you couldn't afford to buy new bread, stale bread was always available. Unfortunately, fresh bread was truly a thing of beauty, and stale bread was guaranteed to be hard, dark, and sharp enough to bruise. The thing about tavern bread was that it often doubled as a weapon. A crusty piece of bread could do some serious damage, especially considering many patrons had anger management issues and did you not feel a tavern brawl was complete without smashing a bit of bread over someone's head. Though given the alternative of eating sawdust mixed with mold, I suppose the occasional black eye was a small price to pay for sustenance. Now that my thirst has been quenched and my bread has been broken, it is time for the main course. But the main course is not served here. In fact, even in the busiest of taverns, no one really knew what was going to appear next. Food was brought in from wherever it could be found, and guests were simply given whatever they could manage to pay for. This meant that the menu was unpredictable, but it also meant that the menu was often disappointing. Meat as a prize, rabbit, pigeon, unlucky chicken, sometimes game, sometimes rot. A medieval cookbook called The Form of Curry for many things offered recipes for cooking pigeons. But pigeons were scavenged birds, and scavengers were not known for their hygiene. Also, the older the meat sat, the more it attracted rats, who would then eat away at your dinner while you aren't paying attention. And speaking of mice, the kitchen wasn't exactly the cleanest place in the tavern. It was generally used for storage, animal fodder, and sometimes even waste disposal. So chances were your food was accompanied by a few extra ingredients. The chef just forgot to take them out. Most tavern meals were stews of sorts, and they were kept on the stove for hours, days, or even weeks. This resulted in a thick sludge of boiled meat and vegetables, but it also meant that the meat and vegetables sort of dissolved into each other. This mixture was usually served over whatever grains were on hand. I suppose this dish did have a name. It was called pottage, not soup, not stew, a graveyard in a bowl. It's been boiling for days, ingredients tossed in one after another, never removed. Grains, vegetables, scraps of meat, all dissolving into a thick sludge of history. Monday's rabbit, Tuesday's pigeon, Wednesday's regretto, still floating in there. Your spoon sinks into mystery, your knife cuts despair, your fingers do the rest. Now, if you weren't careful, you might find something unpleasant in your dish, a bone, maybe a stray mouse or even a rat. While these creatures did occasionally join a stew accidentally, they could also be served on purpose as a special. A nice rat à la mode, anyone. Of course, not every tavern served such questionable cuisine. Some specialized in certain dishes. For example, eel was popular in England and Germany, and eels are notoriously difficult to prepare properly. Then there were other specialties. Occasionally a cook would come across a recipe and decide to perfect it. In France, cooks were known for creating exquisite fruit tarts. These treats were highly prized, but they were also incredibly expensive. However, the cooks that made these tarts realized that they could charge an exorbitant amount of money for these delicacies, and because of this, many fruit tarts became synonymous with wealth and extravagance. In Italy, pizza was invented, but pizza was not the food of kings. Instead, it was the food of common folk. In fact, many taverns advertised that they had wood-fired brick ovens where pizzas could be cooked quickly and efficiently. Taverns realized that a hot pizza went well with a mug of ale, and soon the two became synonymous with each other. It was a match made in heaven, and in Spain, seafood paella was invented. Paella originally came from Valencia. It was created using whatever ingredients the farmer had on hand. Rice was in season, so it was added to the mix along with saffron, which gave the rice its yellow color. Then seafood started showing up. Fishermen began adding fish and shellfish to their pagella, and it soon became the dish of the coast. The most famous tavern in the world specialized in seafood pagella, and his name was appropriately enough, Noah's Ark. So you may have noticed that I haven't mentioned anything about dessert yet. That's because there wasn't much of a dessert selection. In fact, you were lucky if anything sweet showed up on your plate, but if it did, it was probably something simple like fruit or nuts. Most medieval people didn't have a particularly sweet tooth, so the lack of a dessert menu wasn't much of a disappointment. The real disappointment was when the server approached you with a platter full of pickled eggs, salted fish, and random leftovers. These were the specials. Have you ever had a dish you hated but felt compelled to eat? Well, those people know the feeling of eating a medieval tavern special. It didn't matter how disgusting a dish was, if it was presented to you as a special, it came with an implied "eat this, you animal." You wonder why no one liked eating out. The tavern was loud, chaotic, filthy, uncomfortable, smelly, and dangerous. In other words, it was the perfect place for a medieval person to eat. It wasn't about the food, it was about survival. Eat or starve, drink or die. It was a wonderful experience. If you could survive it, somehow you're still alive. And for that, you owe it to yourself to stop by the tavern and try the food. I can promise you that it will be an adventure. Hey everyone, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Food and History. Please be sure to leave me a like. If you love these videos, I make new ones every single week. And if you want to continue to learn about medieval history, you can check out my podcast, also called Food and History, where I cover many of the same topics in greater depth. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye. You've heard tales about such places, maybe from sailors with sun-baked skin and salt-crusted beards, or perhaps from merchants whose fingers are more nimble than their tongues. Whatever brings you to its door, once you cross the threshold, you're not a customer anymore. Here, you're a pawn in a game older than the stones beneath your feet. You sit but don't get comfortable. This isn't rest, it's survival. The bench beneath you moans like an old man. Every nail in the wood screams betrayal. And suddenly, you realize this place isn't built for comfort. It's built for chaos. Look around. Nothing is neat, nothing is safe. Tables lean like drunks, scattered without sense. Benches sag under the weight of sins and swords. Crates double as seats, barrels as tables, bloodstains as decoration. Even the walls lean inward, as though ready to crush you. And at the center of it, or the hearth, fire roars like a monster in chains. It spits sparks into the smoky air, daring the tavern to burn. The warmth feels like mercy, but it isn't. It's a trick, because the smoke claws your lungs until you choke. Then your eyes fall on the bar. Don't picture polished wood. Don't picture shiny taps. This is a plank balanced on barrels, sticky with decades of spilled drink. Behind it stands the ruler of this kingdom, the tavern keeper. Forget your local lord. Forget your priest. This is the real power here. He or she doesn't wear a crown. They wear scars. Scars on their face, on their hands, on their soul. They don't need soldiers. They have mugs, fists, and fury. When they bark, the room obeys. When they smile, the night sings. When they scowl, the night dies. If the keeper is a man, he's built like a wall of broken bricks. Arms thick as barrels, voice deeper than the fire's roar. If she's a woman, and often she is, her glare alone can silence a riot. She pours ale with one hand and judgment with the other, and both taste like punishment. Assistants scurry around her like terrified sparrows, sons, daughters, orphans, who knows. They carry barrels bigger than themselves, mop floors slick with ale and blood, and pray they aren't trampled in the madness. They don't live, they survive, and you're just another burden they wish would vanish. The only thing that never changes in a place like this is the barkeep. They've seen empires rise and crumble. They've watched kings lose their crowns in the gutter. They know every trick in the book, every lie, every cheat. And yet they stay tethered to this cursed tavern by some ancient oath, some tragic tale. Or perhaps simply because they have nowhere else to go. Their eyes hold 1,000 stories, 1,000,000 regrets. They've seen too much death, too much despair, and yet there's something about them, a glint of defiance, a stubborn refusal to bend. When you meet their gaze, you see a flicker of hope, a testament to the enduring spirit that refuses to be broken by the shadows that lurk within these four walls. In their presence, you find a strange solace, a comforting familiarity amidst the chaos and madness that surrounds you. The barkeep is a constant in a world of change, a beacon of resilience in a sea of despair. Their very existence is a silent rebuke to the darkness that threatens to consume all who enter this cursed tavern. A reminder that even in the darkest depths, the human spirit can endure. Across from you, two hulking figures lock horns over spilled ale, and a woman with eyes like chips of ice watches from a shadowed corner. A bard strums a mournful tune, his voice a lament for lost loves and shattered dreams. His words hang heavy with the scent of stale regret, weaving tales of valor and woe. You recognize some of the names he sings of, etched in stone monoliths, monuments to those who fell in battles long past. The tavern is a graveyard of memories, each corner haunted by whispers of those who came before. You can almost hear their laughter echoing in the rafters, their voices mingling with the strains of the lute. But then the music shifts, taking on a darker tone, and the faces of the patrons shift, too, hardening, sharpening into masks of steel. Swords flash, not in anger, but in memory. Tankards are raised, not in celebration, but in somber toast. The bard's voice cracks, his fingers fumble on the strings as he sings of betrayal, of broken oaths and shattered bonds. For here in this cursed tavern, even joy is tinged with sorrow and laughter echoes with pain. The music swells, reaching a fever pitch, and you find yourself caught in its undertow. You clap your hands, stomp your feet, and sing along with voices you didn't know you had. And when the final chord rings out, there's a moment of stunned silence, broken only by the crackle of the fire and the murmur of the crowd. You look around, suddenly aware of the weight of all those watching eyes, feeling as though you've bared your soul for all to see. The bard bows his head, his shoulders slumped, and for a moment you feel a pang of sympathy for him, for the sorrow that seems to permeate his very being. But then he looks up, meeting your gaze directly, and you see a flicker of something in his eyes, a spark of recognition, perhaps, or maybe something more. He nods his head slowly, as if giving you a sign of understanding, and then he turns away, returning to his music, leaving you to grapple with the echoes of the song in your heart. And then the door swings open, admitting a sliver of the storm-racked night and silhouetting a new arrival against the firelight. There's a hush as he enters, a figure cloaked in shadows and mystery, carrying with him the scent of rain and distant lands. His boots thud on the wooden floor, each step echoing in the sudden stillness. You strain to see his face, hidden as it is in the darkness, and you can't help but wonder what brings him to this place, this haven for weary souls and broken hearts. What secrets does he hold? What tales can he tell? You lean forward, eager to hear his story, knowing that in this tavern, every stranger carries a universe of wonders and woes within him. What will you order? There are 3 options: a tankard of ale, bitter and strong, fit for a warrior's thirst; a flagon of wine, sweet and heady, fit for a king's ransom; a goblet of water, pure and simple, fit for a traveler's need. Welcome back to my channel. Let us talk about medieval drinking and eating habits. Because if there's one thing that people really love to do in the Middle Ages, it's eat and drink, even though they're often not sure what is going to come out of the other end. Now, our first stop takes us to the tavern, and more specifically to the keeper of the tavern. The keeper stares. No menu, no choices, just survival. Now this is the opening line of a story about a medieval tavern from a website called Medieval Times. Info. There's a link to it below so you can read it for yourself. I'm not gonna spoil anything, well, except maybe that our protagonist ends up in a sack by the end of it. But hey, they got to get there somehow, right? Now, in order to keep this game going, I've got a couple of rules for you. First off, I want you to pretend like you are our anonymous narrator and respond to each of these scenarios as if you were living it in real time. Second, I want you to remember that while you are in the tavern, you have no say in what happens. So if someone offers you something, you better be polite and thank them and eat it and drink it whether you want to or not. After all, you're at their mercy. Okay, let's begin. Ale. The bark rattles, you nod, not out of trust, out of fear. The mug slams into your hand, warm, heavy, unwashed. You drink. That is pretty much par for the course in terms of what we know about taverns in the Middle Ages. In fact, according to history.com, the beer would have been safer to drink than the water. Why? Well, water was often contaminated by sewage and industrial runoff. Beer was often safer. However, you still might catch something like typhoid or dysentery from bad beer. So it's not exactly like choosing between Coke and Pepsi here. This ale is alive with things you wish weren't floating. It tastes of earth, sweat, and rot. It is not refreshing. It is punishment. But you swallow, because here, thirst is deadlier than poison. Now, this is an important point. The author wants us to know that in this medieval world, you might actually die of thirst quicker than you would of drinking something poisonous. Think about that for a minute. It means that the narrator is in desperate need of a drink, which is why he is drinking this foul concoction. And you'd probably want to drink it, too, if you were in his shoes. But it gets worse. And poison is always an option. Mead comes next. Honey wine, they call it. A liar's drink. Sometimes sweet, sometimes rancid, always dangerous. You sip, your lips burn, your gut twists. You drink again. Now, mead was a staple in many medieval feasts and taverns, and it was often homemade, so who knows what's in this stuff. But it definitely sounds terrible. What is interesting here is the author makes a point of saying that metheglin is a liar's drink. Why is that? Well, according to history.com, mead was very popular among the Vikings, and Vikings were known for their tall tales and their drinking songs. And if you listen to those drinking songs, you'll often hear boasts and exaggerations about how much mead they can drink. So perhaps this is a commentary on the lies that people tell while they're under the influence. Cider, sharp, bitter, sour enough to strip paint from walls. Apples half-rotten, brewed in barrels crawling with mold. Still it cuts through your hunger. It cuts through your shame. And pain is better than emptiness. We haven't had any cider yet, so this is a new flavor. And honestly, given the rest of the stuff that you've been forced to consume, cider sounds absolutely delightful. Wine exists, but only in mockery. Thin, sour, closer to vinegar than drink. Only bishops or liars claim it tastes holy. You swallow, it burns, it mocks you, and you let it water. The bravest gamble of all. One sip may save you, another may kill you. Dysentery hides in every bucket, every well. Children drink ale not for pleasure but for safety. Did I forget to mention that our anonymous narrator is trapped in a medieval hellhole with no way out? Well, now that you bring it up, yeah, it does sound like he's in a bit of a pickle, and suddenly you understand why. The mugs themselves are weapons. Wood, tin, clay, sometimes cracked, sometimes sharp, some still crusted with yesterday's stew. Now, this is another great touch by the author. Taverns were dirty places. They were crowded. Fights broke out all the time. Mugs were often thrown and fights could get bloody, literally. If you didn't watch your step, you might have stepped on broken glass or a rusty knife. And the mugs being caked in stew just adds to the overall sense of grossness. You grip yours, ignoring the slime on its rim, because here, if it's wet it's a luxury. But your stomach growls louder. Drink isn't enough. You need food. And food here doesn't forgive. It punishes. Pottage. The king of the table is pottage. Not stew. Not soup. Something far worse. It has boiled for days, sometimes weeks. Every day new scraps are thrown in. Nothing is ever taken out. Grains, vegetables, bones, meat, scraps of unknown origin. Monday's rabbit, Tuesday's pigeon, Wednesday's regret. They all swirl together into a sludge of survival. Honestly, it's hard to imagine anything worse than this sludge of questionable meat and vegetables and bones. But the author keeps trying. You don't eat it. You endure it, and yet it warms you. Meat is a prize rare, tough, questionable rabbit, pigeon, maybe dog, maybe worse. This is our second meat dish, and it's kind of making me nauseous just thinking about it. I mean, to be fair, they did sometimes serve dog in medieval England, so there's that. Bread, a rock disguised as food. Chew too hard, and you break a tooth. Don't chew at all, and you starve. Now, that's a clever little turn of phrase. Bread was a staple of medieval diets, so I think the author is using this metaphor to make a point about how the bread in this particular tavern is rock hard and stale. Cheese. It smells like death's boots. Tastes worse. Yes, this is also pretty accurate. Cheese could go bad. And if it went bad, it could smell and taste awful. But the worst part about cheese in the Middle Ages was that it could kill you. Cheese made from spoiled milk could cause botulism. Botulism could then lead to eye and mouth lesions, paralysis, and then death. Pickled eggs and salted fish show up when fate hates you most. And fate always hates you. That sounds delicious. Honestly, I don't know what else to say. Pickled eggs and salted fish are already pretty stinky on their own, but when you're adding them to a list of other gross foods, well, it doesn't help, but you eat, because to refuse is to die. And in that moment, as the sludge slides down your throat, you realize something. This isn't a meal, it's a test. A test to see if you deserve to live another day. Now, this is our third helping of pottage. And finally, the author lets us know what it actually is. Pottage was a thick soup or porridge that was often served in medieval times, and it was usually made up of whatever ingredients the cook had on hand. So it could contain a variety of different things, including meat and vegetables and grains. But the key word here is whatever the cook had on hand. Cooks in medieval taverns and inns were typically not paid very well, and they were often given whatever ingredients they could find rather than a set list of groceries. So while pottage might have been a nourishing and filling meal in some establishments, in others it might have been a disgusting slop of despair. And that's the feeling that the author is going for here. In a tavern, there's no guarantee that the food you're being served is safe or even edible, but refusing to eat or drink is a death sentence. And that's the harsh reality of medieval life. So what did you eat and drink today? How was it? Let me know in the comments below. And don't forget to check out the website, Medieval Times, info. I've got a link to it below. And while you're down there, don't forget to click like and subscribe because I always appreciate when you do. And I shall see you in the next one. The tavern is a battlefield of senses. Smells assault you, thick stew, stale waste, sweat, perfume, unwashed bodies, fear, lust, cheap pipe smoke and something older, something deeper. It's the reek of stories lived, and lessons learned, the stench of lives hanging by a thread, the stink of survival, the aroma of risk. Here, life is cheap, but lived on the edge. Every breath carries a story, whispers of deals struck and debts unpaid, of lovers met and children conceived. Even the silence has a smell here, pregnant with secrets, stained by shadows. You push back the heavy oak door, and immediately the clamor hits you, a wave of noise threatening to drown you. Inside, dim oil lamps cast dancing shadows on the rough-hewn beams overhead, throwing the room into a dissonant play of light and dark. Rough planks form the floor, scarred by years of spilled ale and scattered feet. You navigate the room, careful to keep out of the way, acutely aware that your every move is observed. The tavern is alive, pulsing with a chaotic energy that both frightens and excites. At once, you're a part of this place, a new note in its old song. A barrel stands sentinel in the corner, its head split open to catch drips from the ceiling. Its dark contents pool below, mingling with sawdust and refuse. No one seems to notice, much less care. The benches are mismatched, some whole, some broken, held together with rope and hope. All have seen better days. You choose one carefully, wary of the protesting moans as you lower yourself onto the worn wood. With each creak, you feel eyes on you, curious, judgmental, assessing. You're the new flavor in a town that's tired of stale bread. Everyone wants a taste. A short, stocky barkeep with a face like worn leather wipes down a mug, his eyes never leaving you. He places it on the counter with a practiced flick of the wrist. Behind him, bottles line the wall, some dusty, others with handwritten price tags. You step up, desperate for a drink, but not sure what to order. Above you, a sign hangs crookedly, advertising rooms upstairs, though who could sleep with all this racket is anyone's guess. The room itself is filled with figures straight out of legend, some heroic, some pitiable, all real. To your right, a farmer with a red face and sloppy grin slaps your shoulder like your long-lost kin. His breath stinks of ale and desperation. Another round for my favorite whore, he roars, winking at a passing barmaid before returning to his tale. His words tumble over each other, spilling out like the ale he spills on his beard. Apparently, this evening, cows are giving birth sideways, chickens are laying golden eggs, and pigs can fly. And each time he pauses for breath, the rest of the room chimes in with laughter that echoes his own. It's hard to tell if he's lying or embellishing, but given the crowd's rapt attention, it probably doesn't matter. Across the room, shrouded in shadow, sits a hooded stranger. His face is hidden, but you see his profile stark against the dim oil lamp behind him. What secrets does he hold? Why has he come to this den of revelers? He doesn't speak, doesn't touch his drink. He just stares into the murky depths of his mug like it holds the answers he seeks. Is he a brooding knight-errant, a fallen noble, a killer on the run? Perhaps he's just a man so broken even words have abandoned him. You'll never know unless you breach his defenses, unless you cross the room and pull back his hood. But that would take courage, and the shadows seem to be winning this evening. Then there's the battered soldier by the hearth, bellowing tales of dragons, Frenchmen, and a talking sword. Every word is a lie, every story grander than the last. He swaggers, he preens, he drinks deep. With each refill, his bravado grows. In another corner, a merchant waves gold like bait, shouting about grain and sweat dripping from his face like coins. He's desperate to be robbed, and tonight someone will oblige. His arrogance is a beacon, calling out to the rogues and renegades lurking in the crowd. They smelt weakness and opportunity, and tonight the harvest moon is ripe for the taking. At a table near the door, a gaggle of dice clatter like thunder, slamming into a warped tabletop. The players barely glance at the impossibly lucky rolls. They're too busy arguing, drinking, and cheating. No one stops the blatant swindles. It's just part of the game. A bard strums a lute with missing strings, his voice cracking like splintered wood. To your untrained ears, the song is half love and half nonsense, but the crowd loves it. Maybe the tune resonates, because the lyrics mirror the patrons' own messy lives. Or maybe they just appreciate the effort. After all, at least he's wearing pants. Last night's bard wasn't. From the corner of your eye you see women stalk through the crowd, sharp-eyed and fearless. Some serve drinks, others sell themselves. They flirt, they mock, they threaten, and they break teeth. As easily as men do. You wouldn't cross them, and they make it clear you shouldn't try. Beneath their gaze, you shuffle lower in your seat, acutely aware of every inch of exposed skin, every careless word. Here the women are warriors, and the men pray they don't pick a fight. Children dart through legs, snatching bread, coins or knives. Nobody stops them. It's just part of the living heartbeat of this place. When you look down, you realize it's hard to tell where the tavern ends and the street begins. Feet pile upon feet, some shod, others bare. All are moving, shuffling, shifting, seeking purchase on the uneven boards. You look back down, and suddenly you're acutely aware of your own soles. The worn leather, the scuff marks, the feel of calluses under the bridge of your big toe. These are the signs of a life lived, of miles walked, of battles fought and won. Somewhere beneath your bench, a man lies face down, unconscious, ignored. You don't want to look, but you can't help yourself. The sight is sobering. A harsh reminder of the cost of living life on the edge. For some, the edge is all there is. For him, it's been a long fall. When you came in, the din threatened to swallow you. Now you realize it's more than just noise. It's the music of this room, its violence disguised as harmony. Mugs slam like war drums. Laughter erupts like cannon fire. Voices overlap, shrill and relentless, each trying to conquer the air. There are arguments about pigs, drunken scripture twisted into bets, barmaids screaming at wandering hands. The list goes on. It all blends into a sound that is both unbearable and strangely magnetic. The tavern isn't just a place, it's a force, a living entity that demands to be heard. And tonight, it's deafening. It smells like stale urine and old wounds, like secrets and despair. It's the smell of those who've lost everything except their pride and their stories. It's the scent of people clinging to life by a thread, praying their luck will change, hoping for a miracle. Amidst the cacophony and chaos, the faces around you are a study in contrasts. There's the young mother nursing a babe, her eyes dull with exhaustion and worry. How many nights has she spent like this, you wonder, her child's cries swallowed by the tavern's roar? Across from her sits a grizzled old man, his face a roadmap of wrinkles etched by time and hardship. What wisdom does he hold, you wonder? What stories could his eyes tell if someone were there to listen? Beside him, a weathered woman stirs, her fingers drumming a tattoo on the table. Is she waiting for someone? Watching, judging everyone who enters? Or perhaps she's just as trapped as the fly caught in the spiderweb of the tavern's relentless noise. As you observe them, you realize each person here is a universe unto themselves, composed of joys and sorrows, dreams and disappointments, hopes and regrets. Some wear their stories on their faces, while others hide them behind masks of bravado or despair. But every face tells a story. Every life is a testament to the complexities of human existence. Yet amidst all this, you sense a strange camaraderie, a shared understanding that transcends their differences. These are people living on the edge, eking out an existence in a world that offers little kindness. They've seen things you haven't, endured hardships that test the limits of the human spirit. Despite their weariness, they gather here, finding solace in the company of others who understand their pain, their struggles, their triumphs. For a moment, you feel a pang of envy, wishing you, too, could shed the burdens of your past, find refuge in the shared stories of these weary souls. But then a laugh erupts from the corner, shattering the fragile peace. You turn to see the farmer, red-faced and sloppy, slapping his shoulder like your family. You realize you can't stay here. This place may offer solace to some, but it's not for you. You came in search of answers, but leave with more questions, realizing that sometimes the greatest stories aren't found in taverns, but in the quiet moments of life when you least expect it. And just when silence threatens to creep in, someone farts like a trumpet of doom and the entire room collapses into roaring laughter. That's the heartbeat. That's the song of survival. Then the games begin. Gambling, the tavern's truest religion. Dice carved from bone clatter across tables. Cheers, curses, accusations of witchcraft erupt with every throw. Cards appear, rules twisted to favor whoever's shuffling. Wagers aren't just coins. Boots, goats, even freedom for the night are tossed into the pot. A man bets himself, he loses. Cheating, constant. A cough signals a loaded die. A sly grin marks a hidden card. If you win too much, you buy the room drinks or risk being beaten half to death. If you lose, smile and pretend you meant it, or slide toward the exit before fists find you. Side games break out, arm wrestling, drinking contests, thumb wars turned brutal. Someone always ends the night under a table, nameless but legendary. And when the dice cool, stories ignite. Bards spin ballads of knights drowning for mermaids, of witches twisting cows into goats. Lies, every one of them, but in the haze of ale, truth is irrelevant. Patrons rise, voices shaking, boasting of battles fought, beasts slain, and kings fooled. A man swears he wrestled a bear, another claims descent from Charlemagne's cousin. Jokes so terrible they loop back to being brilliant. Poetry stolen from monks, retold without shame. If you're lucky, a traveling minstrel passes through, professional liar, master storyteller, walking storm of words. Their songs turn the room into fire. Their tales blur fact and fantasy until nobody remembers what's real and no one cares. In here, a good lie is worth more than gold. But soon the air shifts. The ale works its dark magic. Laughter melts into longing. Welcome to medieval flirting, where romance is a battlefield and subtlety is a corpse. A toothless drunk slurs compliments about beauty burning brighter than the hearth. His prize, a bread crust hurled into his forehead. The crowd howls. This is a tavern in the Middle Ages. Forget everything you know about medieval life, because we're going back to a time when noble lords caroused alongside commoners, where peasants could find themselves rubbing shoulders with princes and kings, where mead flowed like water and tankards were raised high to the gods of good cheer and robust storytelling. This is the place where history's greatest legends were born and where the boundaries between reality and myth were delightfully blurred. Join us as we take a wild journey back to this mythical time and explore what a typical evening at the tavern might have looked like. The sun has dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple as people make their way to the tavern. Farmers, merchants, soldiers, and adventurers, all seeking a respite from the day's toil. They come to trade stories, make new friends, and maybe get into a good brawl. Inside, the atmosphere is electric with anticipation. Tankards are already raised in salute as old friends reunite and new acquaintances are made. The air buzzes with conversations ranging from the latest royal decree to fantastical tales of dragons and damsels in distress. There's a palpable energy here, a sense of camaraderie that transcends social standing. Here, everyone is equal, at least until the tankards are filled and the stories get tall. At the center of it all is the bar, a sturdy, time-worn oak counter that has seen its fair share of boisterous nights. It's a place where deals are made, secrets are shared, and reputations are forged or broken. Behind it stands the barkeep, a weathered face framed by a snowy beard, his eyes twinkling with the wisdom of countless tales. He's the keeper of the tavern's soul, ensuring that the flow of ale never stops and that the jukebox plays the perfect song. His gnarled hands move with practiced ease, pulling pints of frothy ale and expertly wielding the tankard like a seasoned warrior. With each pour, he spins a yarn, adding a touch of drama and humor that keeps patrons both entertained and slightly tipsy. For here, the ale flows freely and the stories flow even more freely. With every swig, patrons become more animated, their voices rising in a joyful cacophony. Jokes are cracked, insults are traded, and songs are sung. The tavern erupts in laughter at the wittiest repartee. And then there's the music. It mingles with the chatter, creating a lively melody that echoes through the room. A lute or a fiddle weaves its magic, drawing the crowd into a circle where they dance and sing along. Couples steal shy glances, their laughter echoing the music's playful tune. And for a moment, all is well in the world. As the night deepens, the stories grow more fantastical. Tales of daring knights, mischievous fairies, and fearsome dragons fill the air. Each tale is punctuated by the clink of tankards and the roar of the crowd. The room is alive with the energy of 1,000 adventures, each waiting to be lived, each fueling the dreams of those who hear them. Amidst the merriment, there are quieter moments too. In the soft glow of the hearth, two figures might share a conspiratorial whisper, their voices low and intimate. The flickering flames cast dancing shadows on the walls, creating an atmosphere of intimacy. Stolen glances, shy smiles, and hearts that skip a beat all become part of the evening's grand performance. And just when silence threatens to creep in, someone farts like a trumpet of doom, and the entire room collapses into roaring laughter. That's the heartbeat. That's the song of survival. Then the games begin. Gambling, the tavern's truest religion. Dice carved from bone clatter across tables. Cheers, curses, accusations of witchcraft erupt with every throw. Cards appear, rules twisted to favor whoever's shuffling. Wagers aren't just coins. Boots, goats, even freedom for the night are tossed into the pot. A man bets himself, he loses. Cheating, constant. A cough signals a loaded die. A sly grin marks a hidden card. If you win too much, you buy the room drinks or risk being beaten half to death. If you lose, smile and pretend you meant it, or slide toward the exit before fists find you. Side games break out, arm wrestling, drinking contests, thumb wars turned brutal. Someone always ends the night under a table, nameless but legendary. And when the dice cool, stories ignite. Bards spin ballads of knights drowning for mermaids, of witches twisting cows into goats. Lies, every one of them, but in the haze of ale, truth is irrelevant. Patrons rise, voices shaking, boasting of battles fought, beasts slain, and kings fooled. A man swears he wrestled a bear, another claims descent from Charlemagne's cousin. Jokes so terrible they loop back to being brilliant. Poetry stolen from monks, retold without shame. If you're lucky, a traveling minstrel passes through professional liar, master storyteller, walking storm of words. Their songs turn the room into fire. Their tales blur fact and fantasy until nobody remembers what's real. And no one cares. In here, a good lie is worth more than gold. But soon the air shifts. The ale works its dark magic. Laughter melts into longing. Welcome to medieval flirting, where romance is a battlefield and subtlety is a corpse. A toothless drunk slurs compliments about beauty burning brighter than the hearth. His prized bread crust hurled into his forehead. The crowd howls. It's a game of chance, skill and cunning, where fortunes are won and lost in the roll of a die or the shuffle of a deck. But it's also a community, a gathering of hopeful dreamers and jaded cynics alike, all united by their love of the game and their thirst for a good time. As the night wears on, the stakes grow higher and the competition becomes fiercer. Accusations fly and tempers flare, but it's all in good fun, or perhaps it's not. After all, in this tavern, anything can happen. A simple game of cards can turn into a test of strength, a drinking contest can end in a brawl, and a friendly wager can turn into a desperate gamble. The tavern's patrons are a colorful lot, each with their own story to tell and their own reasons for playing the game. There's the grizzled veteran, his face lined with the hardships of war, who hides his shaking hands under the table to keep from losing his last few coins. The young apprentice, eager to prove himself and win the admiration of the barmaid, goes all in with his meager savings. And then there's the mysterious stranger, his eyes gleaming with a hint of mischief, who seems to have an uncanny knack for winning every hand. Whether they're rolling dice, dealing cards, or just watching the game, each patron brings their own unique energy to the tavern, making every night a thrilling adventure. And as the night winds down and the tavern empties, the games continue. For in this place where laughter echoes and stories come alive, the spirit of playfulness never fades. The crowd begins to thin as the night grows late. Couples steal lingering glances, exchanging promises that will surely be forgotten by morning. The embers in the hearth slowly fade, mirroring the dimming light in weary eyes. As the tavern prepares to close for the night, the final chords of the fiddle fade into the silence. The laughter subsides into contented chuckles. The faces around the table, illuminated by the flickering candlelight, are relaxed, their expressions a mixture of satisfaction and fatigue. The weight of the day's burdens seems to have lifted, replaced by the warmth of companionship and the comfort of shared stories. The tavern, with its worn wooden floors and rafters, adorned with hunting trophies and faded tapestries, has once again offered solace and camaraderie to those who sought it. As the door closes for the night, the sounds of the city gradually fade away, leaving behind a sense of peace that lingers long after the ale has been consumed and the stories have come to an end. The old tavern keeper has seen everything. Endless nights he's watched men become monsters, then friends again over tankards of ale. Some start brawling right away, charging like bulls at each other, heads locked, swinging wildly. Others try smoother tactics, refilling their mugs, whispering clumsy poetry, spilling stew in an attempt to be charming, but none of those tricks work around here. Women deflect with fists, with threats, with cruel laughter. Courtesans move like predators, eyes sharp for coin and weakness. Lovers erupt into jealousy, hands fly, mugs shatter. Nothing sparks a tavern fight like love gone wrong, and then it happens. No one remembers why. A drink spilled, a dice game rigged, an insult about goats. Suddenly, war. A stool soars through the air. A mug explodes against the wall. Someone bellows, "Hold my bread," and launches across a bench with drunken fury. The tavern erupts, fists fly, hair is yanked, beards ripped. Men stumble into meals, face first into stew. Women swing like executioners. The tavern keeper, god of chaos, roars, ladle in one hand, club in the other. Bets are placed mid-fight, spectators cheer, dogs bark, chairs splinter, a goat screams, weapons rare. Only fools draw steel in a place where death will exile you forever. These fights are brutal theater bruises, broken noses, and nicknames born in blood. And just as suddenly as it started, it ends. Silence. Ale refilled. Laughter returns. Even the man with a bleeding face is smiling now, reborn with a new title. Benchbreaker, One Eye, Drunk Saint. Because here, violence isn't destruction, it's entertainment. A fight is not the end, it's just another verse in the endless tavern song. In this world, taverns aren't just places to wet your whistle. They're battlegrounds, not for knights or kings but for commoners and rogues, bards and thugs, ladies of the night, merchants and mercenaries. Any and all who had enough ale that the world turned green, and the only thing standing between them and their next pint is the guy snoring in the chair next to him. There's no honor here, only haymakers, no rules, just survival. So if you plan on brawling in taverns, you'd best know what you're getting into. Every fight starts with a stare, first sizing each other up, looking for an advantage. You're always gauging how much worse your night can get. Then comes the test. A light shove, maybe a kick to the ribs. If you pass that, you're clear to brawl. Sometimes there's a weapon involved. The tavern keeper might crack his knuckles and hand you his club when he sees enough ale sloshing around. Or maybe there's a mace hanging on the wall, the one that's always just out of reach. And the barmaid will sometimes join in, slinging tankards like they weigh nothing. She's good. All fighters have their styles. Some flail like wind-up toys, arms heavy and slow. Others dance around their opponents, quick jabs and feints. Then there's the grapplers. Yeah, they stink. Nothing worse than having a big lug grab you by the collar, slam you down and start kneecapped in your ribs while everyone cheers. Those knees are gonna hurt tomorrow. Most fighters hold back some, at least until someone draws blood. That's the sign to go wild. Once the taste of iron's in the air, every strike is to kill. This ain't a fight. It's a massacre of epic poetry. Of course, most tavern brawls don't end in death. By the time a man's knocked out, everyone's spent. They're done. There's a sort of unspoken rule that goes around these parts. A fighter must retreat when he falls. Now, if he stays down, everyone assumes he's bought the farm, so no one bothers with him anymore. He's either dead or really, really drunk. Hard to tell the difference. Harder still to care. If you want to survive a tavern fight, you gotta learn that unspoken language. When to hold back, when to strike hard, when to run. There's money to be made in these fights, too, not from gambling, mind you. Everyone's too busy losing themselves to notice anyone else's losses. No, the money's in the aftermath. Every bruise tells a story, every black eye is a poem, a busted nose, that's a ballad, tragic and true. Every scar is a legend in its own right. You see, the winner of a tavern brawl doesn't walk away with gold or glory. He walks away with a new name. And a name is worth more than gold in these parts. It's a fighter's currency. Sure, a tavern brawl might leave you flat broke, but with a good story and a mean streak, you'll never go hungry again. Some names stick. The Barkeep's Bane, the Black Brawlers, Hammerhand, Two-Tooth Tom. Hell, there's even a singer named Drunken Master, though she doesn't remember the fight where she got the name. That's how it is with tavern fights. Memories fade, but the names live on. They're part of the tavern song now, sung by bards and shouted by drunks, told by wide-eyed children and demanded by tavern keepers. So you went and lost a tavern fight. Who cares? You got a name. All the losers have names. In fact, some of the biggest heroes in our tales were losers. Like the legendary blind beggar of Bramble, or maybe he was called the Bramble Beggar. Anyway, he was a hero because he lost a fight and would unshut up about it for years after. See, everyone loses fights, even me. I think I pulled something in my ribs, I need to lie down. So the next time you find yourself raising a tankard in some smoky, crowded tavern, keep your wits about you, friend. You never know what's lurking behind that tankard. Or maybe you should throw caution to the winds, drown your sorrows in ale, let loose and get smashed. Hey, come on, I'm buying. Wait, where are you going? Don't forget, you came for the story. I have a few more left. Did you hear about the dragon who strolled into a tavern and ordered a drink? Nah, don't tell me. You haven't heard the stories of old Took, king of the hill giants, and his adventures among men. How about the mysterious wizard whose beard hid his entire face? Good times, good stories, good ale. What more could you ask for? And suddenly the doors burst open and in walks a young man. He is tall and lean, moves with a dangerous grace. All eyes turn to him, even the unconscious man stirs. It's easy to see why everyone's watching. He has that kind of presence. His face is hidden behind a wide-brimmed hat, but you can feel his gaze burning into you, judging you. He scans the room, takes in the stench, the sweat, the grime, and then he spots you. Our eyes meet and he nods slightly as if acknowledging your existence. Doesn't speak, doesn't greet you, just nods, and you realize it's the most polite thing anyone here has done all night. He strides across the tavern, ignoring the stares, the whispers, the catcalls. Every eye follows him like he's a comet, blazing a trail through their boring lives. When he reaches the bar, he doesn't order a drink. Instead, he places a small velvet pouch on the counter and asks for a flagon of the strongest ale. The barkeep raises an eyebrow at the pouch, then throws you a knowing look. You pretend to ignore it and focus on the newcomer. You want to impress him, not anger him. The barkeep grabs the flagon, and without another word pours the ale. It's dark and frothy, just how you like it. He doesn't say thank you, doesn't offer to pay for your round. He just turns away and drinks deeply. Intrigued, you do something you don't normally do. You walk up to him and introduce yourself. Name's Ari. What brings you to this godforsaken tavern? If looks could kill, you'd be dead. His response is a low growl. Why would you approach a man who's clearly looking for trouble? You aren't scared easily, but you sense danger around him. He glances at you and says, I was hoping for a little company, adding dryly, before I blow the brains out of every man in this room. He gestures with the flagon toward the boisterous crowd. You can tell he's joking, but his tone leaves no doubt about his deadly intent. You're intrigued by the challenge. What would you say is the proper way to start a brawl in this establishment? You inquire, leaning against the table. The stranger takes another swig of ale before responding. Proper, there is no such thing here. But let me show you what passes for manners around these parts. He downs the entire flagon in one go, slams it on the table, startling a group of dice players. Without a word he turns and walks toward the door. You follow closely behind. As he steps outside, a gaggle of men jeers and catcalls at you. One of them, a mountain of a man with a thick beard, calls out, Hey, pretty boy, having second thoughts. Come back here and join the real party. The stranger turns around, fixing his gaze on the bearded man. His expression is unreadable, but the menacing glint in his eyes sends shivers down your spine. He doesn't respond. He just stares at the man as if daring him to step forward. For a moment, the only sound is the crackling of the fire from the torches hanging above the tavern. Finally, the big man takes a step back, breaking eye contact first. You turn back to the newcomer and ask, So how does one initiate a fight in this establishment? The stranger finally offers a ghost of a smile. Like I said, there is no proper way. But once you decide to pick a fight, you must commit wholeheartedly. Otherwise, you'll end up flat on your face with a mouthful of sawdust. You nod, realizing that starting a brawl in this tavern is less about technique and more about audacity. As you head back inside, you spot the source of all the commotion. A group of burly men led by the very same big bearded fellow. They've surrounded the unconscious man lying beneath your bench. With a surge of adrenaline, you push past the onlookers and reach the center of the circle. You kneel beside the unconscious man and inspect him. Hey, you alright? You shout over the din, no response. You check for a pulse, Turn his head, he's still breathing. The big man steps closer, towering over you. Well, what do we have here? Someone finally decides to show some life. His grin reveals teeth that are stained with what seems to be old blood. He leans in close, his breath reeking of stale waste and chamber pots. Care to join the party, pretty boy? You and the sleeping giant down here. He gestures with a thick finger toward the unconscious man. You can tell he's drunk, but his aggression is genuine. This is a fight he intends to win. You straighten up, meeting his gaze directly. You know that you need to act fast. There's no time for hesitation. As the big man lunges at you, you throw yourself to the side, narrowly avoiding his flailing arms. You scramble back onto your feet and dust yourself off, keeping your eyes locked on him. The crowd parts, revealing a space for the fight to unfold. You take a deep breath, steeling yourself for what's to come. Thank you, you yell over the roar of the crowd. He snarls back, his face contorted with rage. The tavern's patrons erupt in cheers, egging both of you on. Suddenly, the big man charges, swinging his heavy fists like a battering ram. You dodge, weaving between his attacks. Adrenaline pumps through your veins, urging you on. Despite the dim lighting and crowded space, you manage to catch your attacker off guard, landing a swift kick to his knee. He stumbles, momentarily stunned. You pressed your advantage, delivering a series of quick jabs that find their mark on his chest and jaw. The crowd murmurs with surprise as the big man reels back, clutching his bruised ribs. Seizing the opportunity, you launch a flurry of punches, each one connecting solidly with the flesh beneath his thick beard. He staggers, but remains on his feet, his eyes blazing with anger and pain. The fight continues in earnest, neither of you giving ground. Each blow lands with a sickening thud, echoing through the packed tavern. The air grows thick with the smell of sweat and the coppery tang of blood. The crowd roars, their cheers and jeers fueling your determination. Your vision narrows, focusing solely on your opponent and the task at hand. You fight with everything you've got, refusing to yield. As the struggle rages, the stranger watches intently, his face unreadable in the dim light. His gaze never wavers from you, and you can feel his eyes burning into your back. The thought of disappointing him spurs you on. Just when you think the fight might end in a stalemate, the big man falters. An opening appears in his defense, and you exploit it with a well-placed kick to his groin. He doubles over, gasping in pain. You seize the moment, raining down a final flurry of punches until he collapses, slumping to the floor in a heap. Gasps and cheers erupt from the crowd. You stand over your fallen opponent, chest heaving, muscles aching. Adrenaline slowly fades, leaving you shaky and vulnerable. The tavern erupts in cheers. You raise your arms in victory, basking in the adulation of the crowd. You've won the fight, but you haven't won the favor of the stranger. Slowly, he begins to make his way through the cheering throng, his eyes never leave your face. When he finally reaches you, he's close enough for you to see the intricate details of his features. His jaw is sharp, his eyes intense. His gaze seems to pierce through all pretense. Before you can recover from the fight, he delivers a sharp kick to your shins. You cry out, dropping to one knee. The crowd falls silent, stunned into stillness. Why did you hold back? His voice is a low growl, barely audible above the din. Startled by the sudden shift in atmosphere, you quickly rise to your feet. You shake your leg, trying to regain your balance and clear the throbbing pain. The crowd stirs, murmurs rippling through the onlookers. You look around, realizing that all eyes are now on you. The cheers have died down, replaced by a tense silence. The stranger leans in close, his hot breath washing over your face. "Show me what you can truly do," he commands, his voice low and dangerous. You can see the power simmering beneath his controlled exterior, waiting to be unleashed. In the midst of all eyes upon you, you feel a surge of energy, not just from the fight, but from something deeper within. This moment calls for a response, a display of skill and courage. The stranger's words echo in your ears, igniting a spark of excitement. The crowd's expectant silence fuels your determination. With a deep breath, you step forward, ready to reveal what you're truly capable of. The tavern walls seem to close in, the dim oil lamplight casting long shadows. The air crackles with anticipation. You shift your stance, feeling the familiar power surge through your veins. Years of training, discipline, and sheer grit coalesce in this moment. It's time to show them what you've got. Not music, not laughter, something else. The rhythm of violence brewing, voices rise, ale splashes. The room becomes a storm. Dice slam harder, accusations of cheating erupt. A mug flies across the room, it shatters against the wall like thunder. The fight has begun. A stool arcs through the air. Fists crash into jaws, beards are yanked, hair ripped, but tavern explodes into a battlefield, and you are caught in the middle. A man bellows, "Hold my bread." He leaps across the table, smashing into his enemy. The crowd roars approval. Someone bets on who bleeds first. Coins rain down like sparks. The tavern keeper storms forward, ladle in one hand, club in the other. She is judge, she is executioner, and the crowd parts like the sea before her wrath. Anyone who defies her will not wake tomorrow, yet even she doesn't end the fight immediately. She lets it rage, because here, violence is entertainment. Good people, good Ceros, welcome to my channel and to our town. We got a hot stew for ya. The perfect place to rest weary travelers, make merry with friends, or get into some deep, dark trouble, maybe even find your death. Come on in, come on in. Welcome to the tavern, a place where fists become familiar faces, tankards sing sad songs, and only the strong survive. You are here because life had nothing better to offer. Love, honor, fortune, glory, none of it wanted you. But worry not, wayward son, for here you are home among brothers. Here we eat, drink, piss, and fight. Here there are stories to warm the blood, ale to dull the mind, and broad shoulders to break your bones. Yeah, it's cozy. So take off your cloak, cast off your pack, untie your belt, loosen your purse strings, and prepare to spend what little coin you have. Haha, here the barkeep knows your name, the mugs know your lips, and the floors know your sins. You are one of us now. Forget squires and scullery maids. In taverns, all are equals, all are fodder. Here the king sits where you do, and the beggar has the same ale. Pay your dues and hold your tongue. So sit down, take a seat, but don't sit too long. These stools are meant to be transient. They rock and wobble. Some might tip over, watch your step. Whoops. Let's get you another round. Just watch your head, please. Don't go to sleep. Not here, not yet. It's dangerous to doze in a tavern. Any old thing could happen, like a brawl, for example, a fight over cards, dice, or a wench. Then someone pulls a knife, a sword, an axe. Someone screams. Oh, then the whole damn lot goes wild. Tables overturned, tankards flying, chairs snapping like twigs, bodies slamming to the floor. There could be death, sudden and swift, or a slow bleed to the tune of a lute or a fiddle. Blood paints the floorboards red, making them slick. Oh, and watch your pockets. When there's death, there's always a corpse light looking for treasure. So stay sharp, listen well, and breathe deep. For in a tavern, danger smells sweet like cinnamon and cloves, like nutmeg and mace. Danger sings low like a lute or a fiddle, and danger whispers to you from every dark corner, from every shadowed nook and cranny. So keep your eyes open, keep your wits sharper, and keep your hands on your weapons. A tavern is a good place to lose yourself, a fine place to hide from the world. Sure, the landlord knows your name, but does anyone else? No. Well, maybe the barkeep. They know everyone's name. They've got time. They see everything. They hear everything. They're always here. They don't leave. They are the tavern. You can disappear into a tavern. Leave your past outside on the street, on the cobbles, in the gutter. Here, you are simply another face in the crowd, another voice in the din, another hand on the counter, another body on the floor. A tavern is an asylum, a refuge, a hiding hole. It's a place to forget you were ever born. Oh, and the ale is strong, strong enough to drown out the memories, to wash away the sorrows, to burn the regrets. Drink deep and weep with abandon. And listen well, friend, if you want to survive a tavern, you must speak the language, know the rules, know the signs, respect the taboos, look hard, listen harder, speak only when spoken to, and then only briefly. Don't show your scars unless you want company. Do not boast unless you wish to die. And above all, do not trust. A tavern is a viper's nest, a spider's lair, a den of thieves. Here every man is armed and angry. Every smile conceals a knife, and every jest could be your last. Words here are weapons. They cut deep and they break bones. Tread lightly, wayward traveler, for in a tavern, silence is golden and discretion is a virtue. A tavern is a school of hard knocks, a finishing academy, where manners are made irrelevant and fists are made bloody. A tavern will humble you fast. In a flash you will learn more about yourself than you cared to know. Here, wine is holy water, drunkenness, a prayer, and a brawl, a baptism. You will scream and shout, dance and stumble, fall and rise again. You will puke and pray, beg and borrow, steal and lie. You will laugh and cry. You will love and hate. You will live and almost die. By dawn, you will be a better, kinder, stronger person, or you'll be dead. Either way, it won't matter. Oh, but it will matter. To wake up alone in a tavern is to fail at life. It means you survived the night, which means you are cursed to live another day. That means you must endure the taunts of the barkeep, the pitying looks of the regulars, the mocking laughter of the innkeeper. Everyone will wonder how you manage to avoid dying. You will blush, mumble, try to vanish into the crowd, but nowhere here is private. Walls have ears, and the floor remembers. Surviving a tavern night means facing another sunrise, which means hunger. That means breakfast. Probably watery porridge. Good. It will fill your belly without waking your head. Then the sun will climb higher, meaning more noise, more smells, more bodies invading your space, more shouts, more laughter, more everything. The tavern wakes, stretches, yawns, winks, and shakes its head clear. It remembers what happened last night. It recalls every broken bone, every drunken brawl, every whispered secret, every spilled pint. The tavern keeps these things close. They are part of its lore. Then the tavern shrugs, blows its nose, lights the fire, boils the pot, draws the shutters, and waits for the next tale to begin. Now listen closely. When the night grows dark, the moon climbs high, the shadows lengthen, and the tavern deepens. Now listen well, child. A tavern is a place of power, a nexus of fates, a crucible of destinies. Here stories are born and lives are changed forever. Here, tired pilgrims find grim solace. Here, weary travelers swap worn tales. Here, desperate lovers meet, secret rendezvous. Here, kings and paupers share tankards and woes. Here, outlaws plot their bold deeds. Here, farmers guzzle their joys and sorrows. In a tavern, even the walls have voices. They whisper of battles fought and lost, of loves declared and denied, of fortunes won and squandered. They bear witness to triumphs and tragedies. When night falls, a tavern becomes a confessional box. Men bare their souls, confess their sins, reveal their secrets. Their words are heavy with regret, hope, and shame. A tavern keeps these confessions sacred, locked in the wood and stone, only to release them to the wind when the hour is right. Sometimes a tavern is a stage. A traveling player strums his lute, his ballad echoing tales of valor and woe. A jester dances, his motley concealing a sad heart. A bard recites verses, his words weaving magic and mirth. A storyteller spins yarns of dragons and damsels, of quests and kings. Their voices rise above the din, holding court for rapt listeners. And sometimes a tavern is a graveyard. Not in the literal sense, for no ghosts haunt these halls, at least not ones you can see, but in the sense that here reputations go to die. Here men lay down their arms, their armor, their burdens, their pride. They shed their identities, becoming nameless souls seeking solace and oblivion. When morning breaks, they rise, reborn, ready to face the world anew. Listen, boy, the tavern keeps its secrets close. What happens here stays here. A tavern is a sanctuary, a refuge from a heartless world. A tavern is honest. It offers no illusions. It is crude, raw, and real. No pretense, no artifice, no hypocrisy. A tavern is honest. A tavern is real, and if you can navigate its treacherous waters, you will emerge tempered, seasoned, tested. You will carry the scars of your initiation, the badge of honor. You will carry the memories of laughter, of pain, of triumph, of defeat. You will carry the stories of the night. So remember, stay sharp, listen well, remember the rules, know the signs, respect the taboos, look hard, listen harder, speak only when spoken to, and then only briefly. Do not trust. In the dim lamplight of a medieval tavern, patrons stagger upright, groaning like wounded beasts. Some dunk their heads in rain barrels outside, calling it clean. You check your pouch to coins and a button. Miraculously, your boots are still here, though one bears teeth marks. That's victory in this place. In this place, survival is always victory. New faces wander in, workers, travelers, desperate souls in need of ale before the sun burns too high. The fire crackles tales of last night. How old Tom took an axe to the barkeep's daughter, after he found her dancing with young Will. A ballad is born, sung by a bard whose fingers know every string and every tavern in the realm. Each note distorts the truth another inch closer to God. A fight becomes a battle. A song becomes a spell that summoned ghosts. Everyone nods, everyone believes. Lies become gospel, and history is born in the smoke. A tankard slides across the worn wood, spilling amber dreams into calloused hands. And suddenly you understand. The tavern isn't just a pit of drink and disease. It is the beating heart of the medieval world. News is born here. Deals are forged here. Alliances bloom and die here. Farmers drink beside thieves, pilgrims share stew with soldiers. Strangers become friends or enemies over dice and spilled ale. This isn't leisure, it's life condensed into a single, filthy room. It is a court where business is sealed with mugs instead of seals. It is a church where the sermon is shouted, not whispered. It is a stage where every soul performs for survival, laughter, or legend. Here you can find a job, lose your purse, fall in love, start a feud, or vanish forever, sometimes all in the same night. And beneath all of that, the tavern offers something priceless: escape. From the cold, from hunger, from the crushing weight of survival. For a few hours, you can laugh too loudly, drink too much, forget the plague, forget the war, forget how fragile life is. Even if the ale is warm, the food is vile, and the bed is crawling with vermin, here, at least you are alive among the living. Because in a world where death waits at every corner, the tavern is a rebellion, loud, filthy, furious, unapologetically alive. So when you step inside a medieval tavern, you aren't buying just a drink, you're buying belonging, you're buying story, you're buying the right to matter, if only until dawn. And when morning comes, when your boots are sticky with spilled ale and your head pounds with regret, you'll understand why this place could never be forgotten. The tavern was no mere drinking hole. It was humanity's rawest heartbeat, messy, brutal, unforgettable. And long before pubs, cafes, and coffee houses, there was only this, the medieval tavern, a place where survival became legend, and legend never truly dies. Welcome to life in the Middle Ages, where history comes alive through immersive storytelling. If you're new here, subscribe for a journey through time. Today we explored the medieval tavern, where every story started and ended in a haze of smoke and ale. Did you catch that? Every story started and ended in a haze of smoke and ale. We've all been there. You step inside and the stench hits you first. Stale waste, chamber pots, unwashed bodies, and sweat. But under its grime the tavern thrived, dictated by an ancient rhythm as old as civilization itself. First, the rising sun. As the rooster crowed, the tavern door opened for the first time, admitting the day's light and the weary travelers, hunters or laborers, seeking solace from the biting wind. They'd gather around the hearth, sharing tales of the road, while the barkeep, a weathered man with eyes that knew every secret, poured them tankards of ale, each mug a vessel not just for beer but for camaraderie. They drank to ward off the cold, the loneliness, and the creeping shadows that always seemed to lengthen as the day wore on. The tavern was their sanctuary until the midday bell tolled. Then the farmers came in, muddy from the fields, their hands calloused, their faces etched with a year's toil. They joined the hunters and the travelers in drinking songs, their voices blending in a chorus that echoed tales of ancestors long gone. After all, what were stories if not a way to bridge the gap between life and death? What were taverns if not a place to keep those stories alive? Through the haze of pipe smoke, these men forged bonds that defied the boundaries of social standing. Lords and peasants, nobles and beggars, all were welcome within these four walls. Once the sun began its slow descent, the evening's revelry commenced. Merchants eager to unwind from their ventures, artisans skilled in their craft, students with minds sharp from their books, they all found solace in the tavern's embrace. The air grew thick with laughter, the clash of tankards, and the murmur of gossip exchanged over mugs of frothing ale. The fire crackled merrily, casting flickering shadows that danced in time with the lively tunes played by a bard whose instrument sang of valiant knights and mythical beasts. And then they came, the rogues, the renegades, their faces masked by shadows, their intentions concealed behind sly smiles and twinkling eyes. They weaved through the crowd, their presence both feared and respected. These men of the night brought with them tales of distant lands, of daring heists and perilous adventures. They spoke of treasures lost and found, of battles fought and won, their words painting vivid pictures that captivated the listeners. And so the night deepened, the stories grew wilder, and the tavern echoed with the sounds of merriment. Here, amidst the smoky haze, the line between reality and fantasy blurred. A simple tavern transformed into a stage where destinies were shaped, alliances forged, and legends born. There were fights, of course, drunken brawls that erupted over spilled ale or a woman's smile, shattering the fragile peace. But even in the midst of chaos, there was unity, for in the chaos, they were all brothers, bound together by their shared humanity. They shared their food, their drink, their stories, and their lives. And in the quiet moments, when the revelry subsided and the embers glowed softly in the hearth, the pilgrims made their presence felt. With heads bowed, They recounted their arduous journeys, the blisters on their feet mirroring the wounds on their souls. Yet their eyes held a distant, unwavering focus, their steps a steady rhythm towards their sacred destinations. They sought not just shelter, but solace. In the shared silence, the tavern walls bore witness to confessions, dreams, and the quiet desperation of those carrying their burdens aloft. Their stories wove a tapestry of hope and hardship, each thread a testament to the resilience of the human spirit in the face of life's adversities. In the early hours of the morning, when the rest of the world slumbered, the tavern remained awake. Soldiers, weary from their campaigns, sought refuge within its rough-hewn walls, sharing tales of valor and sacrifice over mugs of ale. They spoke of distant lands, of battles fought and won, and of comrades lost. Theirs were stories etched in blood and valor, tales that painted vivid pictures of the realities of war. They spoke not just of glory, but of the grim toll it took on the human spirit. In the stillness of the night, the tavern became a sanctuary of sorts, a place where the warriors could shed their armor, both literal and metaphorical, and find solace in the camaraderie of those who understood their burdens. And so the night wore on, and with the first hints of dawn, the revelry began anew. Peasants, tradesmen, nobles, and scholars, they all emerged from their beds, drawn to the tavern by the promise of a hearty breakfast and the lure of good company. Over steaming mugs of coffee, they swapped tales of their daily struggles, their voices blending in a harmonious chorus that echoed the joys and sorrows of everyday life. The tavern wasn't just a place to eat or drink. It was a crucible where different worlds collided and common ground was found. It was here, in this humble establishment, that the threads of society were woven together, creating a rich tapestry of human interaction. And as the sun climbed higher in the sky, the tavern emptied. Its inhabitants, refreshed and rejuvenated, returned to their daily tasks, carrying with them the stories and laughter that had filled their hearts. The tavern stood silent, waiting for the sun to dip below the horizon once more, for the cycle to begin anew. Within these four walls, where the air was thick with pipe smoke and the scent of ale, where the hearth roared tales of bravery and sorrow, where the very stones seemed to hum with the echoes of 1,000 stories, lay the heart of medieval life.